Welcome back to the Naked Expat channel. I've been an expat for the best part of 20 years, and predominantly that's been in Asia. And I would, I retired early, and I would thoroughly recommend that if you have the opportunity to become an expat, certainly live longer term or for an extended period of time in another country, you should definitely try and do it. Life's too short not to. There was a large exodus of digital nomads from the Western world to places like Thailand, Malaysia, etc., Singapore, um, many years ago. And the digital nomads are still popular, but a lot of people realize that actually, hang on a minute, do I want to spend my life living out of a suitcase and just traveling around everywhere? I think maybe when you're younger, in your 20s and 30s, then yeah, great. It's almost like an extended gap here. Uh, that's not a problem. And certainly with the creator communities now, some people can make a living out of it. But hey, you know, it's very, very hard if you're a parent, you got family, or you just simply after a while, enough is enough. I think it's human nature to want to just have a base and just slow down a little bit and wherever I may lay my hat, as they say. So yeah, fine, whizzing around the world if you want to, but after a while, it's like, wait, hang on a minute, let's just sort of slow down. My my friends and the community that I'm in is very much orientated around the retired expat. I'm British, and it's expats that may want to retire early in their early 50s. I was very fortunate. I retired in my late 30s, very early 40s. Um, and had I continued to work in the UK, I'd have probably continued to do very, very well. Um, I was eventually, although I was previously a chef, I ended up in finance. I was doing very, very well. But after a while, sort of corporate burnout, I didn't want that life anymore. I was chasing money and I was never rich, but I was comfortably off. And in the end, I just got fed up and just, I don't want this life anymore. Ultimately, I knew deep down I wasn't happy. Retiring from at the age of about 39, 40. And when I say retire, I mean just basically selling up everything in the UK. I didn't have pots of money, but I just sold everything. You know what? I don't want this life anymore. There must be something different. I wasn't finding anything very much rewarding anymore. So I retired at the age of 39, nearly 40. And by the time I was 40, I was in Thailand. I was living in Thailand. I lived there for several years. I'm now in the Philippines. However, throughout that time, of the last sort of 20 years, I've experienced a lot of expats that end up retired and bored. And because they're bored and they don't have many hobbies or interests, this isn't everybody, but I've seen a lot, especially in Europeans and Americans coming to over the east towards Asia. They're bored, and so what do? They sit in bars and they drink all day. If they smoke, they continue to smoke because cigarettes and alcohol are generally pretty cheap in Asia compared to the States or in Europe and certainly in the UK. So a lot, not all, but a lot will drink heavily and party, party, party. They may be chasing women that are a lot younger than them. It's always nice to feel like you're James Bond, and to a certain degree, to the average Asian, a Westerner, a foreigner, does represent the potential for long-term security, which is why a lot of Asians, for example, do find themselves, Asian women predominantly, do find themselves attracted to foreign men. And therefore, because of the economic dynamic, it is quite easy and relatively common for there to be a larger age gap between the man and the woman a foreign guy in his 50s and 60s can still be very attractive to an Asian lady in her early 20s. That is not going to be generally the case in Europe or America for the Western guy unless he's extremely wealthy and you're sort of able to keep a woman in the means to which she's become accustomed. Um, Glamorous, wealthy men generally do seem to have an ego boost when they have the company of younger, attractive women, either as a girlfriend, fiance, or wife. Perhaps it's a status symbol. It's not always the case, but it is quite common in Asia. It's not common in Asia between the middle and upper classes of Asians to have a large age gap. A middle class or wealthy Asian man is going to marry a middle class or wealthy Asian woman of similar age. You don't see many Thais, Malaysians, or Filipinos whereby, certainly in their 20s, 30s, 40s, there's a huge age gap. Most middle class Filipino and Thai men will have girlfriends, partners, wives of similar age, not really more than about 5 years. However, when you throw economics into the mix with foreign, perhaps a foreign guy and a poorer, we'll say provincial lady from one of these countries, of course she's female. It's not about looks, it's about long-term security, not only for her or him, for the gay community. It's about long-term security, not just for him or her, but also for her family or extended family. At the end of the day, they may not have, due to finances, the same amount of choices and freedoms and opportunities that wealthier locals in her country or his country, the Philippines or Thailand, have. And certainly they don't have the financial power and freedoms and opportunities that the foreigner has enjoyed. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, most foreign men that retire at the age of 50 plus and move to Asia, they're able to retire at 50 plus and move to Asia, which is something that the average Asian is not going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to retire from the Philippines or Thailand and go and live in London. They're just not going to be able to do it. It's completely unrealistic. So most expats have to appreciate the fact that when you retire to somewhere like Asia, you're deemed to be a little bit of a jackpot to a certain demographic. And also, unless you have sustainable hobbies and interests or get some pretty quickly, you're going to get bored. And when you get bored, a lot of expats end up smoking, drinking, like almost reliving their youth and become a teenager, fine, buy a big, I ride big motorcycles, buy a Harley Davidson, go touring around Thailand or Philippines or wherever. There's nothing wrong with that. If you play golf, go and play golf. Go to a country that's got great golf courses like Thailand. If you want beaches and you just want a beach life and sit around, you're going to get bored. Most people that live near the coast or live near a beach, they end up with a house being eaten by the salty air. They end up looking out onto the horizon on the evening, and what do you see? Black. There is no view, not like a city view. Living near a beach is, they're soul destroying in the evening. There's not much to do. There's only a certain amount of times that you're going to enjoy sitting out with a sea breeze and listening to the waves. You're going to get rain. You're going to get typhoon. You're going to get stray beach dogs. You're going to get people partying on the beach because all beaches in Asia are generally public, not private. Um, Unless you live in a hotel. You're going to get the idea that it's all absolutely wonderful is not realistic. You don't get many good hospitals near beaches because most of the good beaches are remote. Therefore, if you become ill, nobody's superhuman. You might be fit in your 50s and 60s, but in your 70s and 80s, you're going to get ailments. Your body's going to start letting you down. And healthcare and being close to a hospital is important. Now, if you've become an expat in your 50s or 60s and made your base somewhere which is more remote, and this is a problem that expats do make, they end up being involved with a partner or a wife that's perhaps not a city person, they're more provincial. You want a quieter life, so you're quite happy living in one of the smaller towns rather than cities. In the Philippines, I would suggest that if you are originally based in, say, Manila or Angeles City in Clark or in Cebu, and you want to base yourself somewhere a little bit quieter with a little bit less traffic, then you're going to look more like you're going to look for more like towns than cities. So you're going to be looking at places like Bohol, you're going to be looking at Iloilo, you're going to be looking at Dumaguete. And these places are nice as a happy balance because you're not going to be right out in the provinces like you're going to go and live in the jungle like Tarzan. You're going to be in a town, so you're going to have a populace. However, these towns are generally only offering three-star hospitals. You'll be able to get hold of some things, but not all things. If there is a larger expat community, like for example Dumaguete, you're going to get some restaurants that are geared more towards the tourism expat kind of person, and therefore the prices are going to go up. But really, ask yourself seriously, when you became an expat, what were your expectations? Were they just simply to sit in a bar and drink, or do you want to go out and play golf? If you want to go out and play golf and travel around and experience different cultures, you're probably going to be a bit bored in places like Dumaguete. If you want good golf courses, you pretty much need to be based in Luzon. So you've got south of Manila, you've got north of Manila. So lots of golf courses in and around Clark. Um, you might want 5-star. You might be attracted to, well, I want to be based somewhere where I can drive within 30 minutes and go out with my girlfriend or wife to a 5-star restaurant or a casino or a dance hall or a good movie theater. You want those options. If you've got children, you might want to be near an aqua park, go-karting, 10-pin bowling. You've got to ask yourself the question, where are these places? And certainly there's a huge difference between the likes of, say, the advanced infrastructure of Thailand and the less advanced infrastructure, although catching up, of countries like the Philippines. But likewise, if you enjoy culture, you're going to get a huge Asian culture and vibe and cuisine from countries like Thailand, Vietnam. You're not going to get the same Asian vibe in the Philippines because it's being controlled by the Spanish and subsequently by the Americans. There's a lot more people in the Philippines that speak or understand English, which is fantastic. However, their cuisine and their lifestyle is in a lot of ways beneficial because it's more westernized and they practice Catholicism than the more Asian Buddhist vibe you get in countries like Thailand, for example. So they are very different, and therefore they attract and satisfy very different expats. So, in summarizing, the biggest mistake an expat can make when they're moving abroad is to not seriously consider, how am I not going to go insane from boredom? How am I going to keep fit and active and not just end up being some stupid 50 or 60-year-old that smokes and drinks to oblivion because you're just bored? Cigarettes and alcohol are cheaper and you got nothing else to do to pass the time. So ask yourself that question first, because believe you me, the biggest issue all of us expats have when you move to a foreign country is ill health. Because when you start to become ill, it's hellishly expensive, irrespective of what people say about, oh, there's great healthcare in Thailand, or, there's affordable healthcare in places like the Philippines. Yes, there might well be, but you have to ask yourself the question, what standard is it? if you go to a doctor, if you go to 10 doctors, you're going to get 10 different diagnoses. Do they have the medication available? And ultimately, is it going to bankrupt me? Because if you get seriously ill, believe you me, I was in finance for many, many years. And the common denominator amongst all of my high net worth clients that were close friends and long term clients of mine, that I looked after their money when they had properties abroad in Asia, in Europe, Spain, Portugal, Madeira, Malta, the common thread between all of them is when they got sick, they ended up selling up everything and being based back in the UK. So you've got to ask yourself that question. What is going to happen when, not if, but when you get sick? Because trust me, that is the biggest threat to all expats, irrespective of where you end up living and enjoying. I'm not saying don't do it, but seriously, seriously think, what is my contingency plan? Enjoy.